Hello, and welcome. As promised, we have a 5 of the week, definitely not five, once more, episode of award voting for season 59 awards, since I am a honorary member of the voting commission, voting voters commission, for the SBDL awards.
Committee.
Voting committee, yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know.
Commission is what
I don't know what's
we
called.
send out as the award ballots, but the committee sends out the anyway. Voting committee for the SBDL awards, and as my job as Pittsburgh general manager, I also have the esteemed right once more to vote for SBA awards. See, I haven't checked anyone else's voting, like I usually don't, and filled out my ballots with the exception of the all SPA teams. Yeah, we're here once again, as you maybe can see already from your screen, with Nepto. He's
He's
also an
also part.
hmm? Yeah, yeah.
He's also
Also,
part of the voting committee, as you spoiled back then.
yeah, and as a commissioner,
Yeah.
also um, required to vote for SPA awards. In the past, there used to be like this fun sort of thing. Let's just be sure. I'm gonna turn up my Discord volume a little, so it's much to the same levels as past weeks, rather than Nepto being more quiet this week than other weeks. Anyway, yeah, in the past there used to be like this big joking, not joking, but joking as a joke point that if someone wasn't voting for awards, they'd just like lose their job pay, or they'd lose their job eventually. I think we're gonna quite far from the days of when GLU and Amidas and Doc, or whoever it was, used to be SBA commissioners, since nowadays we need to do preventative measures to keep votes and voting happening for at least the SBDL awards. Don't know about the SBA awards. Anyway, um, before we get into the awards, just quickly, what's your general thoughts on the SBI playoffs, ongoing draft? I don't know if it's actually still ongoing, but I figure it is. And the ongoing already started SBI free agency. Just general thoughts for a quick second.
Okay, I'm gonna keep it to 2 minute max.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the playoffs, nothing unexpected as the result. Ravens were the team to beat, and no one beat them, so not even the Ravens killers, self-titled Ravens killers, because they didn't even make it to the Ravens. Surprise, surprise. Um, on
Who
the
would
other
have
hand,
that
I think
been?
it was the Maulers titled themselves the
Oh,
Ravens.
yeah, yeah. Funny enough, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyways,
Before
yeah.
losing to the Vipers, who proceeded to suck filler against Grant Thompson.
Yeah.
Note for you aspiring GMs, that's not a good idea. Um, but whatever is against Thompson, so probably didn't matter in the end. Yeah, but I was quite satisfied with OKC's run, even though I think we could have beaten the Wolverines if the luck would have been on our side. Didn't happen. Totally fine with that. Bit unfortunate that Charlotte went out in 7 against the Wolverines. I would have loved to have a matchup where I can only win and not even lose. But it is what it is. And now free agency is nothing major happened yet. I don't expect it, besides a couple really bad trades. But we will talk about those trades more than enough.
Yeah,
What's your
maybe we
takeaway?
can talk about them closer to the start of the season, like as an off-season review, since there's like some of the awards here are quite clear cut, but also I have a suspicion that we're gonna waste a lot of time here with this thing. So the less we talk about the previous season, the well, actually, the award voting is previous season. Let's roll them back a little. Anyways, yeah. My quick take on the playoffs was that I was indeed correct that my uh, bracket prediction went just how I said at the end of the last episode. Houston will beat the Wolverines in the finals in 6 games. At least that's what I think I said. At least I didn't know the Ravens beat the Wolverines in 6 games until now, and I'm quite sure I said that. Yeah, quick little thoughts here. Grant Thompson possibly working on one of the best careers in all time in the SBA, and it's still not finished yet, which is cool. Didn't reach the unparalleled marks of 700 through shooting in any season, or as for his career is only 636, but still like of his era, definitely
Yeah, and in
the
terms of production, I think he's pretty much unmatched in the playoffs.
yeah.
Like he set the record for the most points per game in the playoffs twice in a row.
I think he
Maybe
already
even
has the third most points in any playoffs, like playoffs history, like after
could be.
McAdoo and Jaws.
Yeah, but Thompson missed like the first 3 seasons,
Yeah, well, that's
playoffs in the
what.
first 3 years, I think.
Uh,
That's why
oh yeah,
he's a
maybe
bit
I was looking
behind.
at someone else.
But but also McAdoo only played 4 seasons in the playoffs, I think. So not totally sure on that, but
Yeah, and all the other like high volume scorers of the past, like they've completely shitted. So in the playoffs, like you think of guys who have averaged 40 points in a season or 37 and more, they've never been any good in the playoffs. So I'm just gonna take a quick look here and pause the recording for the 16 seconds it takes me to look this up. Yeah, I forgot that in season 57 they got eliminated in the first round by the Bullets. You remember this? Like I thought Thompson had a full playoff season back then as well. Yeah.
they've gotten too many buys and
Yeah, but
some
the season
early.
we beat the Bullets in the finals, I really like.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I thought Thompson had like 16 games played that season, but it's only 4 or 5 or whatever it is. 5. Yeah. So abort. I think it's Ja, Beduja, Cooper, and Suzuki or something like that. Or do you have it in front of you?
Yeah, I have it in front of me. 1 second. So first place is Jaws, then Joe Cooper.
Yeah.
As a note here, Jaws has 3,900. Cooper has 3,200. So there's a 700 point gap
Yeah.
between those two. Then Eyal at third place, Suzuki at fourth place, and then Kip Carson's as
Yeah.
fifth,
Yeah. Yeah.
Stokes at sixth, and so on. And so lots of bullets and ravens and the occasional nightmare uh,
Yeah.
in there, but mostly bullets and
And
ravens, like
currently,
usual.
Grant Thompson would only figure at 26th place between Abe Rosenthal and Mr. X. But yeah, if he had 10 more games of 40 points per game scored that one season that I thought they made the finals, but it was the Bullets instead, then he'd be up there in the top 10 definitely. But yeah, anyways, moving on to the award voting and ballot stuff. We're gonna begin with I guess with Nepto's choice. You can pick which league we should
Uh,
start with.
I I don't really care. I
All
think
right.
we go through the SBDL because we don't have a lot of candidates. Though I don't know about you, but no, I feel like the SBDL is always the clear league.
Yeah, I have a lot more comments about the SBDL because I don't follow even as a head coach like all the Sims game by game. So I really need to like
Yeah, same.
revisit the narratives or narrative free stuff during voting time. But Should we just start in the order that are presented in the voting threads? Or yeah, that's
Yeah,
probably
let's
easiest.
do it like that.
Yeah,
I think
so
that's the
just
easiest.
to, if there's some listener slash viewer listener here who doesn't know the voting, excuse me, the voting procedure is as you select the who you would vote for MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, Sixth Man of the Year, Head Coach slash Executive of the Year, Rookie of the Year, Most Improved Player of the Year, and then for the positional awards, you select 3 players which are weighed by where they are ranked in your ranking, and the player who gets most points is voted All SBA or All SBDL first team, and the second most points getter is voted or awarded rather All SBA second team. So we're gonna kick off with the, or at least mine, but probably also Nepto's vote for SBDL most valuable player. Who plays for none other than my favorite team and the team I coach, Thunder Bay Resistance. It's Zero Fush. Zero would have likely been the best player on any team in the SBDL this season to me. Like, he would have replaced anyone in the starting lineup for any team. I personally didn't plan to use him as a can do all player on a mediocre to bad team on the season 59 Resistance. But since I only have had one other player joining him for the year, I didn't have much of a choice. Or even then, it wasn't a choice. It just like the game goes that way. Like I can't do anything about it really. If you have one good player and 7 sort of thereabouts players, it just goes that way. In completion, full season is, I would say, like a season for the ages achievement. 42 points per game, 10.8 rebounds per game, 3.9 assists, 1.3 steals, 1.2 blocks, 60.2 true shooting on a whopping 35 usage, which is like Houston James Harden levels. Uh, Tops in scoring rate and efficiency. I would say sort of all right defense, although I have no idea where the 1.3 steals actually came from. Covered both classes, offensive and defensive, although his attributes wouldn't have lended him to that as much. But that's just how voting goes. We vote on based on what happens, not based on hypotheticals, based on attributes.
Or an attribute. Otherwise, we could just rename it a TPE
Yeah,
award.
highest TP award of the season. Yeah, and also turned it over rarely. Any disagreements or comments on my selection for the SBDL season 59 MVP?
Not really. I think Zero. I know how Boom wants the name to be pronounced. I won't here, but I think everyone knows it. Um, yeah, I think he's the clear choice. There's match up that kind of statistical profile. Efficient on the offensive end with great volume, even pulling down 10 rebounds, although that's the most replaceable production most of the times, and still has some decent defense to go with it. So I think he's the clear cut choice for MVP.
Yeah,
At this point, I also want to point out that people really voted Baramy's 42 points per game on meh offensive efficiency with no defense whatsoever as the MVP back then because
in the
it was an
SBDL.
unprecedented amount. Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
I'm still mad over that MVP because he won it by such a small margin. And it really wasn't that much of an accomplishment in comparison to what we've seen afterwards. Everyone kind of knew that it was reproducible, but regardless, it's just some historic ranting on this part.
Yeah. All right. Didn't know that much about the award voting back then since I wasn't really a part of it, but Moving on then to Defensive Player of the Year for the SBDL, I selected Daddy Rice for Quad City Asylum. Number 2 in my consideration was Stephen Colbert, and I think they were similar in impact, but Daddy Rice would profile as a more talented defender for his position, whereas Colbert is like sort of playing the wrong position for his skill set generally. As Daddy Rice has better deal defensive rebounding and block numbers, which are generally as a help defender and close to the rim guy, center's responsibilities. Whereas Colbert is more odd with 1.7 or what was it, 1.8 steals per game and less blocks. Still came into it thinking Colbert was going to be the winner for me, but I ended up with Daddy Rice for the reasons listed above. Who did you have?
I actually am still a bit unsure. I didn't have Colbert on my radar in that regard. I knew he had a decent season, um, but I actually have Edward later in consideration
Yeah,
because from a pure volume or production perspective, I mostly disregard defensive rebounds in the SBDL or don't value them as highly. Um, And then if you look at these stocks, it's just Adrian with his 2.6 steals per game and close to a block per game
yeah.
is, in my opinion, better than the other two. So he's produced more at end of the court. Um, the rebounds could sway it into Rice's favor, but I'm still a bit on defense. I don't know what your opinion is on Ladrin, or why didn't you take Ladrin into consideration?
I think for a perimeter, 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 what the fuck? This is actually like a symptom of COVID-19. So, uh, backcourt, perimeter. What the fuck? I'm gonna go have to Google a pronunciation guide for.
Perimeter.
Yeah, but that's still unnatural. Like even if I said it right 7 times, it feels like unnatural.
In
Let's see.
American English. Perimeter.
Perimeter. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. The other one was British. Yeah, perimeter, perimeter, perimeter. Our audience is mostly American anyway, so we should stick to elevators instead of lifts and perimeter. Yeah, for perimeter players, I find it quite easy to stack up steals compared to bigs. If you such as rig your defensive game plan to have room for this. So even though Ladrian is a small forward which has a moderately lower likelihood of getting steals than a point guard, I had Ladrian as an afterthought since I also think from just like a basketball theory standpoint that the center where you playing trap, man, zone, help, I guess that's all. But any of them uh, would be the main help responsibility at the rim, and the most effective and most efficient scoring still happens at the rim. So I almost always favor bigs, especially centers, when talking
You know what I
about
mean?
defense.
In terms of it's easier to rack up steals as a perimeter player.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah.
completely in agreement there. But also on the flip side, it's so much easier, especially in FBB, to get blocks as a big man compared to a guard. And I know that from experience
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah, of course.
played
But
Maeda had his 90 rating and still only got, I think, a career high 1.6 or something like that. So it's way easier to get the total stocks at center to me in comparison to guards. And that's why especially when you have a guard that's also got like close to a block per game, I always find that quite intriguing at least.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Like generally, if Ladrian had 1.2 blocks instead of 0.9, which would mean like he had 100 blocks on the season playing shooting guard and small forward. Well, actually, small forward and power forward. Anyways, um, I'd find his case to be like closer to undeniable. But what I was saying, just from a basketball theory standpoint, the parts that we don't see in the statistics, although we're only supposed to vote based on the statistics, or actually, there's no set rules for voting based on anything, but you know, yeah. In a general sense, if you ask me like who is the more valuable defender, your team center or your team small forward, if their general skill set would be on the same level, I would say always the center, because they're taller, they have more help responsibility, and generally would have longer arms. Well, we don't take that into consideration. That's just why in a situation like this, where I would consider the center players more carefully. And yeah, the rebounding plays a small part, but also the rebounding is skewed towards the bigs, as blocks would be. And yeah, the only part where I brought up the defensive rebounding earlier was because we were comparing it between two centers. If we're comparing it between Ladrian and Daddy Rice only, then I would pay less mind to the rebounding, although still some, because it's still securing possession for your own team. And it just so happens that the game works in a way where it lets other positions do that more often than the other positions. But yeah, I think, yeah, maybe I was too quick to dismiss Ladrian's case, but I saw him in the later when I was doing positional voting and sort of circled back, but didn't think it was too heavy to dissuade me from picking Daddy Rice to be the defensive player of the year.
Yeah, that's a fair point. As I said, I'm still on the fence. I don't know. I think I will go with Ladrian for now. I
Yeah.
wouldn't be surprised if I change it to Rice later on.
Now for a very interesting award in the SBA. Well, in the SBA or in the SBDL. But in the SBDL, we've actually had like a couple of very good Sixth Man of the Year award winners in the past season and candidates, active players on championship level teams and such. But for the Sixth Man of the Year in season 59, I was only considering two players, filler number 2 and Jambalaya, who plays for Thunder Bay Resistance. I think there's some opportunity to find a third candidate who's better than both of these, since I have my doubts about both candidates. I have written here in my notes that filler number 2 is a good vote, and Jambalaya is not much better. Their season contributions to me read as Alaya as a super sixth man, shooting the shit out the ball one day and not the other, and number 2 being closer to a defensive seventh man than sixth. Weird year, but I ultimately went with Jambalaya, also playing for the Thunder Bay Resistance. Do you have any thoughts on the sixth man of the year race this season in the SBDL, Natto?
I mean, if Hattie wouldn't have started Grigoris Polyronidis Jr. for 7 more games, I would have given it to him. because he put up some great production even as a sixth man.
Yeah,
But he
actually,
has
yeah.
started
I also
47
had
games.
that point too. Yeah.
He started 47 games in the end, and that's a few too much. So he's out. Yeah, I'm probably going with Jambalaya. Similar to as you said, I think he played the sixth man role quite well and was a big part to Thunder Bay's success, despite being not that deep beyond their lead guy. So I think that's going to be my vote.
Yes. There's a lot of. I haven't checked, but I would guess. I won't say there's a lot of, since I don't know. But I would guess that there's a lot of conversation around the Head Coach of the Year award for the SBDL season 59. Some might even vote for myself. Some might vote for Joey. Some might vote for Kaydan. I don't know. And the others probably are gonna vote for Dennis for a second year in a row. I also selected Dennis just to um, ease the justification, sort of. Like if I voted for Joey, I would have had to like justify it to myself and maybe to the other voters, although I don't really give a shit about them that much, in the thread. But yeah, I don't want to vote for myself, and I don't think we were like, yeah. I voted for Dennis. My notes here says repeat champions. I don't want to vote for myself. Joey would be the close second here. I guess I deserve a lot of credit because even I thought the resistance would be in the low 40s, 43, 42, 41 wins this season. And I coached into 58 wins. So I guess I deserve a
Yeah,
little credit, but not sure if maybe that's just the other coaches in the SBDL, not or whatever.
yeah. I actually have you marked up as head coach of the year so far.
Cool.
Um, no disrespect to Dent. He has done a great job once again, and another 70-win season team. Um, but he also had the most talented team on paper, like
Yeah,
quite
yeah.
a margin, and the Resistance were sort of the surprise of the season, going to the second seed, I think, even with 58 wins, and I think that deserves credit because it takes some good game planning with limited, or in comparison limited resources. So I
Way
got you
limited,
marked
yeah.
down. So
I'm just gonna make it plainly obvious to the listeners here. If we are in a Harklewood and McMahon situation where me and Dennis would be tied, or me and Joey would be tied uh, close to the award voting being over, I would change my vote for myself just to get that one head coach of the year win. Well, actually, I not have one?
I mean, what wasn't it your vote that cost you that cost Harklewood that
Yeah,
win?
that's what
That
I'm saying. I'm gonna, but I might have already won athletic director or head coach of the year that season when we had Fuego and Sebastian Steele. So maybe I don't need to
yeah,
dig. Yeah, I don't.
you probably did.
Yeah, maybe I don't need to dig around and I can give it to Dennis anyway.
All
Yeah.
right. Do we want to
Moving
speed
on.
up a bit?
Yeah, moving on to rookie of the year.
Because otherwise we'll be sitting here for 2 hours.
Yeah, well, we've only been doing this for 20 minutes and we've almost like we're over halfway through. So it's gonna be good. Virgin
For
Sage.
the SBDL, not for the SBA.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So which would mean like we're all
Yeah.
halfway. Yeah, we'd end up at the 1 hour, 1 hour 5, 1 hour 10 minute mark, anyways. So Virgin Sage from Tucson Hyenas. Good impact following on the tradition of strong Rookie of the Year winners in the past years of the developmental league. Average to good scoring, not much defense, but still was a big part of the third ranked defense anyways. This is something I always like to point out for people like I don't know a specific people, but who would say like a player has no defensive counting stats. If their team defense is still good, they're passable defensively, which is good enough. Since we all start from 35s in post defense perimeter defense, steals and blocking, we all start as sort of passable on defense on the SBDL level. Do you have any ideas for Rookie of the Year winners? Or
I think Satch is a good selection for sure. He's slightly above Morales and the
Satch?
other two. Yes.
Oh, all right.
He's a slight bit in terms of efficiency, but I have Sahil Qureshi Jr. as the Rookie of the Year marked down for
Ooh.
me. He hasn't scored as much as them, but he has a bit more of a playmaking gene and still holds his own on the defensive side. And is not quite as good, but still in the same area efficiency wise. So I have him marked down at Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, that is a good choice. That's almost making me want to change my vote, but I'll look into it further once we're done recording. Qureshi Jr. is not someone who I had on my radar. With 20.7 or 20 points, 9.4 rebounds, 5.8 assists to Sage's 26 points, 8.8 rebounds, and 3.3 assists. Sage has a 55.7 true shooting percentage on 27.9 usage, and Qureshi has a lower 52.9 through shooting on a lower 22.8 usage, which is probably why I didn't have him on my radar, as he was more of a putting up shots and also being a playmaker, but not putting up good shots. Whereas Sage,
I mean, none of these rookies really are. And if we look at it, I mean, Sage
yeah,
is, I think the highest one is 55.8. So it's all right, but it's not
yeah,
groundbreaking at all.
yeah. For the most improved player in the SBDL, I really don't have any idea, but I noticed that Zero Fus had been a Louisville Lion last season, so I'm just gonna put my vote for Zero. Do you have any candidates, like thoughtful candidates for most improved player in the SBDL? In the past season, there's been some good conversation and good candidates, but this season I didn't really come up with
I
anyone.
haven't really seen anyone,
Yeah,
if I'm honest. I mean, the classic from Filler to Untap thing like Dixie Congo is just too much of a minute increase to take that into consideration. I'm not sure what I'm going to vote here.
yeah.
It's going to be a last second decision.
There's a lot of straight to 199 players. There's a lot of players who've been converted from fillers. There's a lot of players who've been like, it's very difficult. So I'm just gonna go with Fuchs, who was I guess he was also a filler, but he had respectable stat lines in season 58 and even more well respected in season 59. All right.
I mean, converting from a filler is not a disqualifying factor, but playing 14 minutes per game and
yeah,
then
that's
go
more
to
what I was.
38. That's like the
Yeah.
this. Just for the listeners, it's not the problem if you convert your filler,
Yeah.
you won't win MIP. It's just your minutes have to be comparable at least,
Yeah.
because otherwise it's mainly your minutes production.
Dixie Congo obviously is the most improved player in theory, since he improved by 38.3 points per game, 4.48, actually
I think Dixie is the she.
6.6.
So
She. Yeah. Well, I always think of it like, let's see here. Like, the previous player was Diddy Congo.
Yeah, exactly. But
So
I think
but that's
Dixie
why I thought of Dixie as Diddy Congo, and since I think it's pronounced that Diddy Congo is a male in the Donkey Kong series.
yeah.
But Dixie can be whatever she wants. Anyways, yeah. So it's such a drastic improvement that you can see that there's something at play here. Like, it's not disqualifying means, but it's also like you've given not more opportunity, but 4 or 5 times the opportunity, maybe even 10 times the opportunity if you actually count in the field goals and the general touches you get. So yeah, I will go with a 0 here. Moving on to point guard of the year, or the all SBDL first team. Should we just do the? Yeah, we're gonna do this in the order I mentioned above. So we're gonna go through point guards first, then shooting guards, and etc. At number 1 for the point guard of the year, I have Dallas Ortiz Tyson. Ortiz Tyson gets my vote for utterly decimating the scoring efficiency standard for point guard players. Alan Richmond has nothing to be ashamed of with his solid season that seems otherwise comparable to Tyson, but then once more you have the scoring efficiency, which is heavily, and I mean heavily, in Ortiz Tyson's favor. So my ballot is number 1, Ortiz Tyson; number 2, Alan Richmond; number 3, Damian Janisevsky with his excellent defense and floor generalship. Do you have your point guard of the year ballot?
Pretty similar. Tyson at 1, even though his production doesn't quite match Richmond, but it's just an efficiency and defensive difference in that regard. I also have Richmond at second, or Alan Richmond. But for third, I actually don't have Janiszewski. I considered him, but went with Tommy Flavortown,
Ooh.
who also had a pretty efficient shooting season and 2.2 steals per game, only 7.6 assists per game, but scores about double the points per game that Janiszewski is scoring and is keeping it close in steals and shot better over the season. So he's my 13 pick.
All right, a quick comparison for the listeners here. Januszewski playing for the Barons, 8.8 points per game, 7.1 rebounds and 12.5 assists, 2.5 steals on 48.4 true shooting. For Flavortown, it's 17 points, 8.1 rebounds and 7.6 assists, good for 2.2 steals per game, and a almost Ortiz Tyson-like 58.5 true shooting percentage. So indeed, Flavortown has a nice case here to be named the third best point guard of the season, but generally sometimes, especially in situations like this, it's maybe a wash who you put up as the third one. It just goes with which sort of production you prefer personally, since I would find it very unlikely that anyone else than Ortiz Tyson and Alan Richmond are the one of the all SBDL first team and all SBDL second team. But yeah, congratulations to Tommy Flavortown as well on a nice season. Really like that stuff. 58.5 through shooting. Excellent. For shooting guard of the year, yeah?
Spicy. Now it gets spicy.
Yeah. I'm just gonna read these notes here. I have at number 1 Dixie Congo, number 2 Max Maximov, number 3 Zion Calderon, and my notes read: I will vote against my usual standard of a more well-rounded game being better, But with almost double the usage and still a much higher efficiency, Congo's scoring is exceedingly valuable compared to the 1.3 more forced turnovers per game that Maximov gets with his steals and 4.4 more assists per game. Calderon, I thought, was just a good player who was like, maybe made more SBA ready than a SBDL
Yeah,
star,
probably.
which I appreciate a lot more in general. As for recreates, that's what they generally do. In which order did you have your shooting guard of the year candidates?
I actually have Maximov ahead of right now. Um, don't mistake me. Congo has had a great season and has put up some nice efficiency to go with those 43 points per game, and still has 1 steal per game. But I prefer the more well-rounded approach I always have. I always will, of the two-way player that Maximov is, especially if you consider him as one of the main defensive guys on that Asylum team.
Yeah,
And that's what I consider him, together with his relatively low turnovers for being a playmaker and a scorer.
yeah,
Um, I I went with Maximov over Congo here. For the third, I didn't go with Calderon because I disliked his shooting stats in comparison. Um, I went with Shy Henry, who had still 32 points per game,
yeah.
2.3 steals per game. So uh, I like that production on a comparable true shooting percentage more than Calderon.
Yeah, during the season, I thought Jay Henry would be in competition with Congo and Maximov even, but maybe I got worn out, or maybe I just thought I wanted something different for the third spot. I'm not sure. Um, yeah, it is interesting though, because something that will come up later in the episode will be that if you only asked me about the general stat line of a player and which one would you prefer to have on your team, I think I would rather take Congos and shore up the weaknesses elsewhere rather than have Maximovs. And like, since it's such a pronounced dominance in one category over
The
the
scoring
other,
department, yeah, I know what you mean.
yeah.
Um,
Like, even though scoring is the most replaceable skill in the SBA generally, it's still like such a discrepancy that Congo narrowly makes the cut for me. Like I said at the top,
he has more volume, but efficiency-wise, they're actually quite close. I was a bit surprised in that because I didn't expect Maxwell to hang with Congo in
yeah,
that regard.
yeah. Like I said, my usual voting standard is more for the well-rounded game, but I guess this is the season of the 40-point scorer for me, since I went with Fuchs for MVP and now Congo for shooting guard of the year. But I don't know. Uh, I I'm gonna also give credit for Shea Henry for a real nice season in Louisville. Also helped them on the wing to make the SBDL finals, I think. Shea Henry and actually Good Cheese were some of my favorite players in the SBDL playoffs of the season 59. So good on them both. Yeah, for small forward of the year in the season 59 of the SBDL, who do you have there?
I probably hinted at it earlier again. I have Ladrian, even though I know he's probably a filler.
Yeah,
From the profile, I haven't checked in. But he ticks all the boxes, is by far the most efficient shooter of the bunch, has 21 points per game, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, 2.6 steals, 0.9 blocks. Um, and if I look at the rest of the shooting guards, there's no one that's even close to that.
yeah,
After him, I have Morales and Kuminga to round it out, mainly because of production, but not a lot of not a lot to say here.
Yeah, I also have Ladrian at number one. I think he's the actual talented small forward of the year. The second, let's see here. I actually thought this guy was retired ages ago. Then in brackets, it was Breeze Ladrian. Here he is beating down on the SBDL charts. Much more polished than the other small forwards this year, and Morales is then the best of the rest. I had Sarah Tapper tied with Antoine Kuminga for the third place, but nominated Sarah Tapper here. I guess point power forward of the year will also be quite straightforward, as Zero Fuchs are named MVP, played power forward this season. I had number one, Fuchs, number two, Kens Shelby, number three, Kei Kuzi. I voted Fuchs for MVP, so no reason to short him on the positional award. Shelby showed a lot of dominant traits with his good scoring and amazing rebounding skills, but is indeed a step behind Fuchs in efficiency and so on. Do you have these same players?
I have Kuzi at second over Shelby,
Okay.
mainly for
Yeah.
efficiency reasons. I know Kelts will comment that I have an obsession with efficiency, and he's right about that.
But that's the name of the game. Basketball. Not shoot a
All
lot.
right, for center of the year, I mean, center of the year is also interesting. I think there's a clear top two.
Yeah.
I have Daddy Rice at first, Stephen Colbert at second, and then my third filler at third, mainly because of defense and rebounds and not shooting badly.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
I had Daddy Rice, Stephen Colbert, and then Alexandras Jurkunas for, I suppose, defense? Or is this even the right player?
I mean, there is a Jurkunas with 0.8 steals per game and 1.3 blocks per game. But I think he's a bit pale in comparison to the 1.5 and 1.7 of third filler. So
Yeah. All right. I think in my head I just skipped over my third filler because the name is obviously my third filler.
the name is absolute garbage.
Yeah.
I won't.
My short notes here are: I thought Colbert was going to be the slam dunk winner, but Rice in the end had the best year on both ends, of which defense was already discussed earlier. Maybe the turnovers could factor into the equation, but at such low rates, it does not for me. Congratulations to all the winners, since we only go based on 5 of the week. And these are the 5 of the week season awards for the SBDL, and we're gonna move on to the SBA awards of season 59. I'm just gonna give Nepto a little moment here while I go grab a glass of water. For my most valuable player in the SBA, I selected Grant Thompson, and for my defensive player of the year in the SBA, I selected Grant Thompson, and for my sixth man of the year, I selected Grant. Wait, he's not eligible. Yeah. Speak on for the people about the season Grant Thompson had a little while I go grab my glass of water, and then I'll jump in a moment. You may not have Grant Thompson as either the MVP or the defensive player of the year, but you know his production.
I mean, if someone doesn't have Grant Thompson as their MVP for this season, then I don't know what they were doing for the last couple of weeks, and who they think should be deserving. That's just mind-boggling. I can see someone maybe making a case for. No, just no. Adekoya had a great season, but Thompson was just leaps and beyond. Still his usual productive self, efficient self, and being arguably the best defender in the league. So for the top team in the league, once again, I don't think there should be any debate over who the MVP is. For defensive player of the year, I think you can still have a slight debate between him and Shadow Shield if you want to. mainly because Shadow Shield has slightly higher rebounds. But I don't think it quite makes up for the 0.1 missing steals and blocks per game. Um, it's in the end, it's just rebounds. It's not that valuable. In a team context, certainly valuable, but in an individual context, it's mainly around who's around you on the team and less good of a defensive player you. So I think Thompson also takes home this accomplishment. I don't think there have been a lot of guys that have won MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, Playoff MVP, and obviously their positional award altogether, and also Offensive Player of the Year. So Thompson is most likely sweeping it all. And I'm not sure if that has ever happened.
Hmm.
Maybe Oko can fill in. Ah, he's already back.
Yeah, I've been. Yeah, I don't like it. Even some of the most valuable player and defensive player of the years I remember in the last some time would be Troy Simmons, who obviously never was a Finals MVP or Playoffs MVP, and yeah, just on a 5 seconds notice, that's about it for me. Uh, yeah, on the defensive player of the year front for Grant Thompson's 247 steals on the season is the best of any big man ever, with the exception of Tero Miedo and Kane Fox and JJ Harklewood. So
I was about
uh,
to say.
yeah, I think even that season 50, Zero Miedo didn't play big at all. Just point guard.
Yeah, he was a
Point
guard
guard.
at that
Yeah.
point.
So basically the third best big man season in terms of steals. And yeah, let's just take a quick reminder here how much Shadow Shield fell short of that mark. 241, so not much at all actually. 241 means he's in. Yeah, well, then he'd already be in. There'd be players such as Marquise Washington, Cairo Ganar, Memphis Carlisle, a lot of different players already down there in the top 125 players. So actually, Thompson, even though it's only a slight margin, is actually like very close to a all-time season in some ways. And yet, I didn't even have any comments for Grant Thompson. So uh, I think we're safe to move on to sixth man of the year.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah. I had Modi Mosi, good player, not the best player coming off the bench, but I still prefer not to give my vote for players who play their minutes into the 30s very often unless they are the only viable options, which goes right against what we talked with Jambalaya and the Phil, let's see the full name, Filler number 2, yeah. But in that specific instance, I at least noted that I thought filler number 2 was closer to a seventh man on a team. Like he was so low, even though he was very impactful when he played, but he really played sparingly. And Jambalaya played almost too much to be in contention, which is why I was undecided between the two. But here, I players like Kergist, players like let's see here.
Alex Wright.
Yeah, Kergist, Alex Wright, and there was a third player, Afamefuna Adesun, in the San Diego Corsairs, who also played 31.3 minutes per game, which is within the realm of reason, I think, 31.3. But like, yeah, if it begins with a 3, you're going home award free. Let's just go with that. Um,
Yeah,
uh,
I actually took Kyrgyz this year again. Um, my sort of reasoning always is a bit like he was the sixth man. It was within the rules. He produced the best with the minutes he had, and therefore he's getting my vote for sixth man of the year. And it's
Yeah.
not like he's playing 42 most minutes on this team, so I don't see a reason not to vote for him this season.
Just real quickly, Nepto, if you remember the rule that was recently implied is different, implemented to restrict players off the bench playing high amounts of minutes. What is the number for the listener? What is the number of minutes you're only now allowed to play off the bench on your team's depth chart?
You're only allowed to set your bench players to, I think, 32 minutes per game
Yes.
on your depth chart.
Kergist and Alex Wright both played over 32 minutes, so I automatically disqualified them in my brain.
That's just FBB happening.
Yeah, I know,
But
I know totally what it is, but
I think with Hughes, that's also the special circumstance that as well. Filler starting over, right? So
yeah,
his 37 minutes per game. So, yeah.
I think. Have you? I don't know if you've ever tested this, Neptune. This is a total tangent, but I think Houston could have started more fillers and maybe even
Probably.
been better in the regular season. Like on some of the teams where we had Isaac Cannon and like season 58 playoffs when we had Isaac Cannon and Cassandra Frost. Cassandra Frost and Isaac Cannon both play more because they're relied upon more and score more and better somehow when there's more fillers on the floor, which doesn't make sense at all. Even if these opposing players are all active players and like 1000 TP or whatever. So I would have been interested in seeing like 4 fillers and Thompson and then mediocre minutes for all the starting players off the bench. I think Houston might have been first seed with 4 fillers starting this season, and I'm not even kidding. Like it's just so.
Sure, if they would manage the first, because in the end, even though Thompson is dominant, and Phyllis quickly get in foul trouble
Yeah,
and all that stuff, but you always have SBA games where you have like a low margin, and it's
yeah,
these
close games in
these
the
light
end.
edges that these superstars provide you, etc.
Yeah,
And if you're already having your fillers, let's say 20 minutes out there, because you have to set them to at least 24 minutes per game, that's still going to hurt you
yeah,
quite a bit.
yeah. And
So
even if you
I
said,
doubt,
yeah, you
yeah,
doubt, yeah,
I
even
doubt that if they would be really better, but it would be an interesting concept to look
it would be. Uh, because if you win the game by the third quarter, then who cares who's coming in? It's just Alex Wright is going to be up against a Toyota Camry instead of basketball Tony Basketano, Boltano being against the Toyota Camry. But yeah, you know. Yeah, even if you set a filler in the starting lineup to play 0 minutes, which was in vogue in the past, that still means there will be in the starting lineup, given that there's room to make a substitution in the final minute or two of the game. That's just a tip for anyone listening. That's why Speedy Gonzalez was a deciding factor in some of those Brooklyn playoff games, even though he played 3 minutes in total. Because what the fuck kind of sense does that make? Anyways, moving on to the Executive of the Year award for season 15. I voted for Jeff of the Vancouver Wolverines. I didn't think he made anything special, but also I considered Town, Goliathus, Bobby as candidates, but then realized they also did nothing much special.
What about Engine?
Uh,
Because to me, it's between Jeff and Engine.
did I
Obviously, Town
win?
would always
Did
be somewhere in there because of his continued dominance, but I think Engine and Jeff pulled up those, not as exactly a highs, but they built a team more or less from the ground up
yeah
over the off season in a different meaning.
Yeah.
Jeff with his ultra def squad and Engine having like one player to start the off season with,
Yeah.
and a lot of dealings.
Did
So I
I
think
win
those two
the
are.
Executive of the Year award last season with the #1 record in the league? I
I
must
can't even
have.
remember.
Or it was me or Town. It was probably Town.
I think it
Because,
was you. I think it was you in the end.
yeah. Well, this is what I thought of Miami's team. It was very much comparable to the Ironman of season 58. Extremely, totally fraudulent. Win in the regular season by stockpiling good players with no cohesion. But then notice the player builds maybe not so good and die against good teams in the playoffs. That's
Yeah, of course they died in the playoffs in the end, but in the end it's a regular season award, and I think Engine did really
yeah,
well
but
with.
I wouldn't have voted for myself last season either because I knew it was fraudulent. Like I had a good strategy, but I knew I was like gaming the system, and by gaming the system, you're not supposed to get an award. And this is like I'm not saying Engine maybe gamed the system or not, but the results prove themselves sort of clearly. So I went with either Jeff, Town, Goliathus, Bobby, and then gave a slight consideration in the end for Engine, but then realized, yeah, this is definitely just a regular season team, and I don't think it's Executive of the Year award winning to make a team of inactive players or whoever it is, retiring rookies, and then win this and that amount of games and still be considered maybe the sixth best team, even though you had this number of wins, much like the Ironman of the previous season. Like, I don't think anyone thought the Ironman were a championship favorite last season.
Yeah, at the start of the season, no one thought that, but
Yeah.
I was quite surprised.
Anyways.
So it's for me, it's between the two of them. Even if the Vice were knocked out by obviously the best team in the league. But yeah, I think that's enough for GM
Yeah.
of the year. Now, Rookie of the year. Who are you voting for and why is it? Oh, I have to look up his name. Shabazz Serrano.
No. This is
Just
what
for
I was alluding. This is what I was alluding to earlier. I selected Rauta Perse, even though I kind of wanted to vote for Latimer because I think maybe Latimer's attribute page looked nicer to me than Rauta Perse's, but that's not what we vote on. My comments here are impact between Rauta Perse and Latimer is indistinguishable. Hypothetically, Latimer shores up the defense as much as Perse contributes on counting numbers as steals and blocks. But if you only asked me about the stat line and which one would you prefer to have on your team, I would rather go with Perse and believe the team rebounding comes from elsewhere. What do you think about
yeah,
this Perse versus Latimer?
I think that I've said it multiple times over the season. I considered them to be the top two guys in this rookie class, and those would be the ones duking it out for the awards. In the end, I will be voting Perso over Latimer because he was a tad more efficient, like 64 true shooting as a rookie is quite impressive.
Yeah.
Then add some good defense on top of there, and I think that's the case with 20 points per game. I'm never a fan of voting offense only guys, especially if there are such a noticeable step below the top rookies in terms of efficiency and have no defense to offer whatsoever. So they didn't even come close to my consideration.
Yeah.
So and Vladimir just doesn't produce enough points per game. If he would have also produced 20 points per game, then you could make him. As it is, Perse is the rookie of the year for me.
Yeah. Agreed on all counts. For most improved player in the SBA season 59, I actually had a player, unlike in the SBDL this season. I voted for Benson Echenam. My short comments are he improved a lot. Not sure if he improved the most. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, I see your point. I mean, Benson had his career season,
Yeah.
and improved a bit across the board. But in my opinion, that mainly comes from usage and isn't as big as a jump as one might think at first. Especially his shooting went down a bit in total.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I have currently Isaiah Redding the second from Colorado
Nice.
because he made a jump across the board more or less. I think he even was an All-Star for the season. One of the few bright spots for Colorado this season. And yeah, he increased, I think, over 10 points per game, increased his defense, increased his scoring efficiency. So he's the one for me over other guys like, for example, Vlatko Pilic, who
Yeah.
also has some claim to the MIP, but also went a bit down in his shooting efficiency. So
Yeah.
I'm not taking him as highly as I'm taking Redding.
Yeah. I also gave some thought to Oscar J. Basilan Jr., who improved only marginally in minutes played, but somewhat in usage for field goal attempts, but also almost doubled his free throw attempts, which kind of means he's improved because getting free throws is the best sort of offense. Improved in 3-point shooting, improved in assists, improved in rebounding, improved in steals, although very narrowly, like 6 steals on the year. Also gave a lot of thought to Oscar J. Basilan Jr. here. And another player I also thought of was I'm gonna pull up his stat line here before I say his name. Timothy Nowitzki Thurmond, although his stat line almost shows like no improvement at all. I think his impact on the team was excellent this season. Like uh, on a rate basis, this is why I didn't vote for him because it was on a rate basis. He played less because they were even better now than last season. So he
Yeah,
had less minutes, less points, but still more rebounds, more assists, more steals, more blocks. Much, much better true shooting percentage this season, which is why I had Nowitzki Thurmond in consideration, but didn't end up voting for him. But I think both of our picks, Reading the third is an interesting one I didn't consider, but I just went with Etienne for now and might change it later. Who knows? This is a bad podcast if I'm gonna spice it up with maybe I'll change it because so I'm just gonna
okay, I told you what I was going to vote, but
yeah
now
yeah.
maybe half my ballot has changed.
On Monday I wanted to vote for Etienne. On Tuesday maybe Reading the third. Yeah. Anyways, moving on to Point Guard of the Year award, which is the only one I had been spoiled some of the discussion since I won't spoil it to the listeners because it's none of their business, but I'm voting first for Diego Armando Campazzo, second Cassandra Frost, and third Wolf Wolf. I'm amazed at how now that Pablo de Silva Taylor is playing another position, the competition has shifted entirely from the Silva Taylor's Point Guard of the Year award winning season. But I think this
Did
past,
Taylor even win a point guard of the year? I think
didn't
he never
he?
won one.
Or was he in
Last
second
season,
team?
Frost won it.
Yeah, and the season before, was he in
The
second
season
team then?
before was
Matsui? No, Matsui didn't win
no,
shit.
not Matsui. Was it? I don't think it was Taylor.
Let's
It
see,
was someone
season
else.
57 award.
If only SBAO would be up to date.
Be right back.
Maybe.
Yeah, Yeah, so actually it was, upon further research, it was actually Adebowale Adekoya who won season 57, Siskauska's Point Guard of the Year award, and Pablo de Silva Taylor was second team. But that even actually furthers the point. Both players are active, both players are in their prime, but neither Adekoya or de Silva Taylor are no longer in contention for Point Guard of the Year in season 59, which is, it's not unforeseen, definitely, as one is a freak and then the other one is just happens to be playing shooting guard this season. But it is still
Or
interesting.
happens to play for the Vipers, who just roll the dice and who plays where
Yeah.
in every sim.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's mark of delineation here. I think I was originally going to vote for Frost to be the point guard of the year, just upon better scoring efficiency, as Frost is known for, and now a much higher scoring rate. But Armando Campazzo stacks a lot of value in playing almost 300 minutes or 230 minutes more on the season. And that also leads to Campazzo reaching the very famous triple double average. I don't give a shit about a triple double average, but still, that means his rebounds and assists per game are higher than Frost's. Not to mention that they are in double digits for a triple double. Alright, this joke is already run dry, but still. And then I had Wolf third best on basis of being third best. Sorry, Wolf, but that's just how the
I think
cookie.
it's spot on.
Yeah, that's just how the cookie crumbled this season, I think. Do you have any uh, like disagreements or specifics you want to point out there between Campazzo or Frost?
No, I think there's already been a lot of discussion in the voting thread around it.
I haven't read, but yeah.
Yeah, you should. It's quite entertaining.
Mm. Yeah, well, yeah. In this
But yeah, I
specific
think
instance, I know I'm just gonna share it with the listener. They asked me if Cassandra Frost was set to play 48 minutes a game, since Cassandra averaged 2.4 less minutes per game played than Campazzo, and as Frost was also set to play 48 minutes per game, that's a swing factor in Campazzo's favor, since both are set to play the same amount of minutes and Campazzo was able to play more. That means Campazzo is better somehow. Not sure if I agree with just like this is a
I think the
very,
whole
yeah.
minutes argument is a bit overblown. I don't think you have to look into minutes to make any case.
But I
But yeah,
agree.
I think
Playing more
it's
means you're more
yes,
valuable.
obviously
Yeah.
you shouldn't be punished for playing more minutes or producing because you have been playing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, are we now going to pace adjust every stat that we have? Because
I don't think we're
pace
gonna pace
is
adjust
also
anything.
is a quite influential thing on your total counting stats. No, we don't, and so I think this whole discussion is a bit
Yeah.
overblown.
Yeah.
As the stats stand, Campazzo and Frost are incredibly close, but I think Campazzo has a slight edge here,
Yeah.
and we will see how voting shakes out in the end.
I think in the past someone tried to push for a pace adjusted Morris score, but I don't think anyone
There is
ever.
a pace adjusted Morris score.
Yeah, but to be considered instead of Morris score.
Yeah,
Back when?
I think it's Panda.
Yeah, like in the late season 30s, I think. But I don't think anyone really latched on to it because pace adjusted stuff is not circumstantial as it would be in the real life NBA. Like James Harden is,
Let's go
yeah, James
with per
Harden is
minute.
better than Mike Conley, but Mike Conley maybe has better rate stats because or not rate stats, but maybe total stats, because Jazz play a lot faster than James Harden. Anyways, that's just shooting guard of the year for season 59. I have number 1 Adekoya, number 2 Etienne, number 3 Hollywood. You may
Hey, that's
be,
interesting.
yeah,
I have the same first and second team. Not that third team matters anyway. I think there are clear 1 and 2.
yeah,
But I have the Silver Taylor over Hollywood.
yeah,
They are close in points production, even though Hollywood has the edge there on efficiency.
yeah.
But
That's
in my
the
opinion,
deciding
Silver
point for me.
Taylor has better defense and has better playmaking. So that's 2 points for the Silver Taylor, 1 point for Hollywood. So I have it going
But
to the Silver Taylor.
it's a big point, the efficiency point. That's
Yeah, I can totally see why you would be voting Hollywood. I think there's also some other guys in general consideration of their that they are better than those two. But as I said, it doesn't really matter what your vote
yeah.
is because neither of them is going to get first or second team.
Happy to see my man Meets and Rise up there, even if he would be below the Silva Taylor or even Ekstrom. But as a top 5 player in his position already, that's like when we were heading into the draft where Hollywood and I were both picked, I wouldn't have. I
I
wouldn't
mean, I
have.
was picked there as well. We all
Oh
are
yeah,
picked
yeah,
in
yeah.
SB8.
But I wouldn't have thought
Yeah,
that
yeah.
Demetrius Hollywood would still be here even at this point. Is what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
big ups to the GOAT Rise and so on. Moving on to small forward of the year. This is previously been a battle of only 2 players, but now there's a third contestant. Surprisingly, for me at least, overtaking one of the 2 previous contestants. In what order do you have the main protagonist for the small forward, small forward of the year?
Why? Why?
Small.
Yeah. For first, I have obviously our Lord and Savior, the eternal small forward of the year, Jack Robinson.
Didn't save
Um,
shit this season though. Kinda mad at Jack Robinson. Why we went out so quickly in the playoffs?
yeah, he
Now I have
struggled
more
to
AP
finish.
than him, so I need to be more responsible from now on. But previous
Oh God,
last
we are
year, yeah,
Charlotte is doomed. Charlotte is doomed.
yeah.
No, I think Robinson still takes the cake. He still is a supreme scorer, even though King is right there with him. I think even slightly above him in that regard, and has the better defense. Um, Robinson is just a way better playmaker than King, and therefore differentiates himself with that just enough to get the first spot in my ballot. King is the second over Witherspoon. I'm sorry, Trap. Um, Witherspoon also only narrowly missed out on a triple double. Um, isn't quite on par with the other two in
No
terms
longer
of
a good season
scoring
then. Yeah.
production and scoring efficiency. So unfortunately, Witherspoon, while she's still a great player, is only third on my ballot.
Yeah. I
How do
also
you have
had
it?
them in the same order. Interesting you said that King may be a better scorer than Robinson. I don't think that was the truth in season 58. Uh, Robinson was still the same efficiency as King, played more, higher usage, yabba dabba
Yeah,
doo.
yeah, of course. I meant in terms of efficiency. I think they have pretty much the
Oh
same.
yeah, 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 yeah. But yeah, since Robinson has higher usage and even higher usage with his assist ratio and still a same or similar true shooting percentage, I consider Robinson to be the better scorer. Anyways, that's pretty clear cut. What about the Power Forward of the Year award? That's never been clear cut in
I
the
mean, what's your
past
first?
years.
If you say anyone else, then okay.
Yeah, what
If
I'm
you don't
saying
have the
is,
same first
yeah,
place as I do, then
what
I'm
I'm
pretty
saying
disappointed.
is this has been the same sort of story for the past 4 seasons almost. So
I don't think quite as long.
3. Wouldn't this make 3? Yeah, 3. Anyways.
I
I
mean,
have.
57 Gloria, the fourth one.
Oh yeah.
So
Anyways, at number one I have Morgan Shadow Shield, and number two I have Garrus Vakarian, and number three I have Brooklyn Muad'Dib. I think, funnily
you have
enough,
Garrus Vakarian as second. Oh, that's interesting.
I think, funnily enough, Brooklyn Muad'Dib is already now with Shadow Shield and Vakarian, so going into regression, going to be the best power forward in the SBA. Only in year 5 or 6, which is going to be very interesting for the Houston Raiders, but also Brooklyn Muad'Dib himself. Yeah, I had Brooklyn Muad'Dib over Alex Taylor, Basil Malaini, Maximilian, Kai Mathias, just on the amazing defensive qualities. And
yeah, I actually have Bass in second place.
oh,
Yes, over Garrus because Bass produced more, is a step below in defense for sure, but was way more efficient on his more production and also has given more assists. I think that's because he flew up and down the depth chart a ton.
yeah,
But he's still eligible for the power forward, and I think he had the second best season at power forward here. So that's why I'm voting him second, and I have Alex Taylor in third because he also has a decent production on good efficiency and some defense to boot. Though I might have overlooked Garrus in that regard.
yeah. I think for El Melaini, a lot of the sort of efficiency factors are trending down because he played shooting guard and small forward as well, so he has a lot more turnovers compared to Vakarian and Matthias, especially, who have sort of high assist numbers, but El Melani has a lot higher turnover numbers. So just to cap off here or to read through here, turnover percentage. So if a percentage of your possessions that earned end in a turnover. Shadow Shield 9.7, Vakarian 12.7, Muad'Dib 12.3, Matthias 11, and El Melaini 14. So that's way off the norm for El Melaini. So that's just what I read it as to be working against him. But I think the third spot, especially, maybe even the second, is very much up for debate, really. But Shadow Shield is the number one,
I
like
mean,
you said.
you made a great point. I didn't see quite the turnover percentage. Maybe I will have to reconsider, but then I still think.
Yeah. For center of the year, let's just have a little fun, cool off thing here to end our podcast. Do you have Akili in your top three or no?
I don't have him in my top three.
Interesting. So Dallas Brooker was this impressive to you that players such as Akili, Van Rong, Jankunas, Zealot,
Van
all
Rong, don't get me started on Van Rong.
don't get me either started on Van Rong, but still, like, I thought Brucker also uh, benefited a lot from possibly playing 4 positions instead of 1 or 2. So
Yeah, could
it
very
it
well be,
shouldn't
but we have
be,
Noy.
yeah, it shouldn't be discounted against him. But I also, like, in terms of true shooting percentage and 3.4 assists, I just thought it was sort of pathetic for a guy that was, like, I like DB and his player is inactive, so I'm not gonna bash on him too much. But, like, as a top 3 player in his position, maybe questionable. I don't know. Same as
Yeah, I
Akili.
think
Akili definitely also questionable, and Nowitzki
my biggest
Thurmond
problem
also
with Achilles
questionable.
still is that he doesn't have the volume.
Yeah,
I know that's how your players are, but I love my volume. I have to see some volume can be as efficient as you can be. But he's scoring 10 less points than Brucker, so that's like a tough sell for me. And I had a TNT in second and third, actually, over Achille. And yeah, after Achille, it's like what? Silot? I don't know. So like after the top four, I think it takes a hard dive. Maybe Yankunas as the clear fifth guy, but I don't think we have to talk about who's the first one for center of the year.
No, yeah. For the listener, that's Grant Thompson, and then Nepto, you had Timothy Nowuski-Thurmond at second.
Yeah, like Grant Thompson, Dallas Brucker.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I had Thurmond at second because I discredited Brucker for low efficiency, low defense, low assists compared to the landscape, only high scoring, and sort of very good rebounding. Very good offensive rebounding, which is like sort of a rarity among centers now. But yeah.
It's general rarity. I think 2.7 is that the league leading mark?
No, definitely some players have
Not
3.
Campazzo with 3.3.
Yeah. And what the Reiko Corleone, 3 offensive rebounds per game. Maya Witherspoon, 2.9. Oh yeah, that's good stuff. Nice.
Yes, shows that there's a couple still above him, but yeah, I think Brucker, while he doesn't do things exceptionally well, like scoring or defense, he's well above average in everything, and that's why I had him in second in the end.
Yeah.
But I don't expect him to be there next season.
I also don't expect him to be here this season because I haven't read the award voting thread, but I don't think Brucker is going to get a lot of traction. Maybe he is, but I just don't see it. Like, I would think Nowitzki-Thurmond is the second, considered the second best center. But I may be wrong. So, like I said, for the listeners, I haven't read it, so could be wrong. But yeah, just a quick note there about the volume you wished for. Like, if the player still has a lower true shooting percentage than Morgan Shadow Shield, who has 30.8 usage percentage, why would you want more volume? Because even more volume is even lower true shooting percentage, which I guess if I had 99 jumping and 90 free throws, I would have 66 point or just about 66 true shooting. But that's still a crazy long ways away, generally for Talibakili, I mean.
I mean, we will see next season.
Yeah, we will see next season. I will be better, I promise. I made the Andrew Wiggins promise. I promise I try hard. I try hard, so I get max contract. I try hard.
You already got your max contract, so
Yeah. I started trying hard
older
last
now.
off season. Yeah. But it's not something you just snap your fingers and turn it on and off. Like, I try hard, I improve my quickness, stealing, and blocking, and my numbers still go down. So maybe I go try hard and improve jumping and inside instead. Maybe that'll be for
it's
the
going to be
better.
interesting. I mean, we've discussed this whole passing big man type a couple of times now.
Yeah. Hardly a passing big man anymore. Like, I haven't improved handling and passing since my second year in the SBA. So now it's up to you guys to make. Yeah.
You're still passing out of the post, coward.
Yeah. Well, when you have the defensive player of the year on you, maybe sometimes you ought to just, kick it out for an open shot.
You mean Van Wrong, right?
Who?
You were talking about Van Wrong.
Who?
Guarding you.
Who? All right. Thanks everyone for listening once again. We're 40 seconds away from making it 1.5 hours, which was a sort of a talking point before we started recording that maybe we shouldn't go as long, but with a topic like this and maybe some disagreements here and there, we can't help but go a little long. But We will try hard. We will try hard once more. Next week we will just do a off-season recap and keep it to that. How's that, Nepta?
Sounds good.
Yeah, sounds good. Seems good. Everyone's good. Have a good week. And make sure to update and do your media week tasks. And we'll see you again next week. Goodbye.